I think we will commence the webinar. Thank you very much for those who are attending. Just to give you a brief background, Press is a web-based solution that is used by many large-scale organisations. And our USP is really for those organisations that want professional governance, but want to remain fairly dynamic, and who don't necessarily want rich in functionality tools, and therefore end up on Word, Excel, Microsoft Project that would like to step up to something a bit more rigorous in terms of automation, consolidation and aggregation of reporting for projects, more at program and portfolio level. So today this is not going to be a very interactive session. It's going to be a 30-minute show and tell. At 12:30 I will leave the line open for any questions or if anything else anybody wants to cover. But today's show is really about concentrating on two of our modules, planning and resourcing. Like I say, I'll leave it open to questions at the end, or if people want to have a look at other functionalities, I'll ask that question. System that we're logging on to. Hence it's called Demo 12, but if it was any other type of organisation, let's say one example organisation of ours would be Green King, it would be greenking.programexpress.co.uk. And then we will log on. I'm going to be an administrator. You can be a read-only user or a write-access user. But we're going to be an administrator today. And what that will do is take you into the home page or the dashboard of Program Express, which will just show you the general health of your portfolio. And indeed, you can go down to different levels of programs to have a look at the health of those individual programs. But as we enter, we're at the top level looking at the portfolio. That's not something we're going to cover today, but that just shows you how we enter Program Express. I've just clicked on the Projects module, which is really like files and folders, where we can have a look at the portfolio programs and projects, and I can open them up. I'm opening up portfolio. This will be an example of maybe a series or a portfolio of IT projects within an organisation, and I can open up the programs and have a look at the projects that sit beneath them and the health of those projects in terms of red, amber, green status. This is just an example portfolio. Each of our clients will start with a master project and start to build their own portfolio, programs and projects. You'll see along the top that we have many modules. We have a new module, which we're quite excited about, called Impacts, which really is something beyond dependencies, which allows us to not only look at the plan and the resourcing, but also what the impact of those projects are having on business areas. And I'll show you an enhancement that we've also made to the planning screen to allow us to improve how we do impact analysis and portfolio planning. Today we're going to concentrate on the plan area, we're going to concentrate on resourcing, and we're going to show how if we enter data into a project, quite simply, the power of the reporting that comes out and the flexibility in terms of planning and resourcing. As a result, we might show a couple of extra reports which might include commentary status, but we will concentrate on the functionality of planning and resourcing. So, if we are a project manager and we're required to do an update, or we're a user of the system and required to do an update of a project, we will very simply go to that project. We'll use an example project, Project Nightmare, which has a red status currently. It will show us some very high-level information. Indeed, we could make some updates in this area if we wanted to. Again, we won't necessarily cover that today. But if I go into the details screen, it will show us more information about that project, who the project manager is. It will show us the status of the project. And then we have configurable areas, which are quite important in terms of how we report, because we don't have to report by the portfolio and program structure. We can report by other areas. Configurable areas that we can set up as part of the initiation of the database, and in fact you can manage on an ongoing basis. It will show us the dashboard for health in terms of various modules, and it shows in this case plan and resources are of a red status. So if I show you specifically in terms of plant and resources how we update, if we go into the planning section, we will see that we have a very typical high-level IT project with various phases from analysis through to implementation, and this has lots of reds and ambers. Why does it have reds and ambers? Because phases have been missed, and therefore they are red. So we'll see that phase was due to complete at the end of November, but has missed. That is red, and that is driving the development phase also to be missed, and other phases to be forecasting to now to be later than what the governance steering committee has agreed. So if we have a look at system test, for example, it will tell us that we thought it was going to end at the end of January, it's now going to end at the end of February. Out of tolerance shows an amber status. Now we can, if we want to import a project from Microsoft Project, we can set up a new project, which I'll just do now, showing what a blank screen looks like. If I go infrastructure and set up a new project within there, new, I'll call it demo, and click OK, and then we'll have a look at the planning screen. That's empty, and we can start to add and build our project plan from here. We can go down to 2 levels, we can't go any further than that. Also, if we wanted to, we could set up a project using a template. So if we have a template down here with IT template with no dates, let's have a look at that. There will be a typical IT template with no dates, or I could set up an IT template with dates. And that will mean that then we don't have to actually populate the dates. So if I were to set up a new project called infrastructure, within infrastructure, click details, click new, and call it demo 2, and say I will have an IT template with dates. Go into demo 2, we've automatically populated now a project with dates. Now a new feature of Program Express is called what we call adjust, because those might not be the dates that we specifically want, but we might say we do want that plan and we want to start it in May. So if I click on the initiation phase, the first phase of the project, and click down to adjust, new functionality, we'll be able to say I want to start this project on the 1st of May. I've got an offset of plus 61 days, and I might want to apply that to all tasks, reset the original date so I don't have everything as an amber. That automatically resets the dates. And then we can start to play with the dates if we want to, moving on from there. Or we can set up the project with just standard dates ourselves, or we can set it up with a template with no dates. So if I want to now delete those, I can quite simply delete those projects from here, because they'll get in the way of how we report. So very simply then, we've got into, and another way down, I can go down to Project Nightmare. This way from this screen, I can go into the plan. Again, I can have a look at the plan, and you'll see this apparent within the Gantt chart reports that come out will follow the thread of the red and the green status, which makes it quite visible the health of the tasks or the key milestones. So again, if I wanted to stay, if I was running 2 projects, I can go in from this way, I can go up to a project 1A, for example, and I've got some phases in here, and it might say that the sign-off we know is actually going to be later now than starting on the 1st of February, it's already missed that date. So we might say let's adjust that date and say we know that's not going to start now until the 1st of March. Offset of plus 29 days. I'll take all subsequent tasks. I won't change the original date because I haven't agreed this with the steering group. Click OK. Click Save. You'll see that those dates have moved, but actually they've all now got an amber status because they haven't been agreed with the steering committee, and only when that has been agreed in terms of governance should you then go back and replace the original dates. And there are plenty of user access controls which doesn't allow project manager to change the original dates, only administrators. Or if you want the project managers to, you can do. So there are plenty of user settings within there. So very simply then we can play with dates, that screen. I can move dates around, not that I'd want to, but it's got a drag and drop functionality. I can start to add phases to that, or tasks to a specific phase. So I can add to initiate, analysis, for example, or further analysis. And then if I wanted to, I could indent that and it becomes a subtask of initiate. So a very simple screen to use. Okay, I'm going to come out of that. In fact, I'm going to cancel out of that. I didn't want to do that, so it's gone back to how it was. And now go back to my project screen. So very simple for one project manager to update a plan, input, and I'm not going to show it today, but also we could import a Microsoft project plan if we wanted to. Following on from that, in terms of resourcing, what we can do is we can allocate resources to this specific project. We can view the specific users or resources and their skill types, which are all allocated within the admin screens. And I'll very quickly go to the admin screens to show how you would configure all of those. Within the admin screens, only administrators can see and set up, but we have all the users set up, their availability in terms of number of days available to manage projects or to be involved in projects. We can have their day rate if we want, and we can have the skills that they are assigned to, which again are configurable within the system. So starts off with a blank sheet of paper, and you start to develop this. You'll start to see that people turn red if they're allocated more than 2 days a week specifically on a project. So I can add the user to this project if I want to. I can add anybody that's on the list. I can see what skill type they have. They work within the program office. I want them to monitor this project for 1 day a week, or for 1 day on specific phases of the task, or, on specific days, so on the development phase, and it will also populate within that. Very simple setup of a person within a project. I might again be running another project, going to my project 1A, and I might say, right, okay, I'll have another user, Chris Robshaw. There's a theme here in terms of rugby players, 5 days a week on the total project. Probably not, but just to show you an example, that person now has been allocated 5 days a week on the project. So what does that mean? Very simple inputs that people are doing on a timely basis, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, whatever your governance determines. And that starts to mean that now, if everybody's doing that, we can start to look at the reporting that comes out of Program Express. So everybody is managing and updating their plans and resources within Program Express, and we can start to see now what that means to us and why we're doing it. So if I use my example of Project Nightmare, I didn't show you the commentary thread, but I'll run a report which will show a timeline. I'll go into my reporting, and this is specifically about one project. I'll run a one-page summary report. Click Create. Click on the radio button, click Create. That will now show me a PowerPoint-style report with the phases of the project, showing their red or amber status. I can open that up to see it in full view. And now we see a timeline of a specific project with commentary status that's been filled in within the commentary area, which I'm not specifically showing today. So if I close that down, another example of a report that we can see will be a project overview report. That's more of a PowerPoint style report. Click Create. This is more of a Word style report. So it saves the Word templates going out. Click Open. It automatically produces in this format, in this case in a PDF style, and we can start to see the commentary, cost information. Again, we're not covering cost and benefit, but there we can see the plan, the Gantt chart plan, and we can see the number of resources, very high level, that are actually being used on the project. And then we've got other information, risks, actions, decisions, issues. Again, we're not covering today. So there's an example, 2 examples of specific detailed reports that start to show plan information within a specific project. But actually, I'm more interested in going up to the portfolio level and looking at our reporting screen. Same screen at a different level. We've gone up to portfolio, and very simply now, if everybody's updating their Gantt charts, I can run a Gantt chart plan. Click Create. And now you'll see here, if I open that up into a new window, you will see I've got all the programs, infrastructure, the projects that sit beneath them. We can see the health, we can see what starts when and what ends when, and we can also see the health of those tasks. If I want to know why those are amber or red, I can actually go from there into my settings and say I'll have the original dates as well, please. So we've not just got the current start and end dates, we've now got the original start and end dates to go with it. So we'll start to be able to see from here why something is amber, and it's because the original end date is the end of March, for example, and the current forecast by the project manager is the end of April. What we would encourage in terms of governance is that once this has been flagged up in the reporting and it's gone to the governance committee, who agree that we should re-baseline, then the original dates would be reset and these would go back to green. So there's an example now of 8 pages of Gantt chart plans related to projects sitting within program and portfolio. Something that's quite difficult to get hold of unless you're using a tool such as Program Express. So there would be the typical Gantt chart. But now let's have a look at other reports. So we're talking about planning and resourcing. We've got lots of other reports. I'll show you a couple of them. But now we want to go down to resourcing. Click Resources. Click Create. And you'll see here now we have an Excel style view of all the resources, and I'll open that into a new window. All the resources, what projects they're working on by month, we can change this to by week, the number of days within each project, and their health. So we allocated somebody 5 days a week, or I can't remember what I allocated them now, that Chris Robshaw allocated them, but that person has now become over-allocated for that specific month and is a problem. So what we can do is we can start to allocate other resource, we can start to look at the prices of the projects and move the plans around, etc., etc. So we can start to build our portfolio within our current resources, or we know that at certain times we need to recruit more resource in specific areas. If I wanted to run that report again, go to Settings and have a look at that on a weekly basis. I would change the duration to 6 months, click Create, and now have that information on a weekly basis. Or, what I might want to do, is I might want to change that back to monthly, back to 2 years, and I might only be interested in resources that sit within one of these skill areas. So say, for example, application services. Click Create, and now we'll see a filtered view of only the people that's filtered by application services, because that is the area that we are specifically interested in. So now if I go back to my resources, I have other views that I can look at and other types of reports. That was usage by resource. I can look at availability by resource. And remember, this is simply by people updating their project within the resources screen, and now we can look at opening in a new window, and we can see here all the users, all the resources, and whether they're available in green and how many days available in a month, or whether they're over allocated. So next screen is we can also say, well, actually we only want a specific number of projects. We've got our top 10 projects, which are the projects that sit within these areas, but actually we've wired up, as we call it, because we have some functionality down here called wiring. where we can say we only want to have a look at the information for the top 10 projects within the organisation. So this is about creating a different portfolio view against projects that have been updated in one place, but now we have them sitting in a different view. And if I go to my reports, I can now click a Gantt chart, click create, and now we have a Gantt chart view only against the top 10 projects. So we have very much flexibility in terms of the projects that we want to use or show within certain portfolio views. Now, again, in terms of reports, remember, all we've asked the project manager to do is to make an update within these specific projects to plan and to resources. Very simple updates, powerful outputs. So if I go back to my portfolio view again and go to reports, you'll see that I've made setting changes. So for example, I have a REC status report that I click, which is a default report that I can click and create, which is an Excel type report, a consolidation and high level view. But I also have lots of different setting types. So I can choose start and end date, which picks up the Gantt chart. I can remove status. I click create. So I'm now including the start and end date of the project within the REC status report. And indeed, I can play with these reports as much as I want, and I can then save them into my reports, or I can save them into shared reports. Once I've saved them into shared reports, I can just run them from there. So I can click create on Program Office Right, and that will show on a smaller font a lot of different columns, including the start and end date, but commentary, overall status and focus for next period. I might want to put more information on there, and I might then want to export it to Excel because it doesn't fit on one A4 page. So I can quite easily do that, but I won't specifically show that today because we're concentrating on planning and resourcing. But the point I'm trying to make is that you've got saved reports that sit within here, and not only can you save them, so Gantt charts, detail, Gantt chart, high-level milestones, you can add them to favourites, or you can go to your sponsors and add them to their favourites on their PC, and they needn't have training or access to Program Express. But if I add them to the favourites, here, add them to the favourites bar, click Gantt high-level, that's already up there, but I'm going to replace it, and you'll see from here that we have on our favourites bar different types of reports. So I don't even need to be a specific user of Program Express, but I could click the Gantt chart detail, and that will automatically fire up my report, and I don't even need training on Program Express, so I can see the view. So, in summary, what we're saying is that if you structure the programs right, you make very simple updates to plan and resources, you can then start to get very high-level, automated, aggregated reports across your organisation. Resource usage weekly, for example. So we're now 27 minutes past 12, and this really was just a sort of like a 30-minute teaser to show how you can overcome the difficulties of labour-intensive reporting, how you can very quickly get real-time reporting that becomes aggregated and consolidated to programs and portfolios, where you can have flexible views, you can have different types of reports by just having entered a certain amount of data, which should hopefully save a lot of time and make the data more meaningful because it's available a lot quicker. Program Express, as I said at the beginning, is really for organisations that really want, that do periodic reporting, that probably do it on sort of like Excel or Word and use Microsoft Project for Planning, and we don't fall out with the view that people can carry on using Microsoft Project for Planning if there are detailed plans, which there often are. But our USP is really for those organisations that don't want the rich and functionality, but actually don't want to remain with labour-intensive tools. So it's now 12:28. So that, I think, concludes the show on planning and resourcing. For those that want to drop off, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time, for listening for the last 30 minutes. Have a great weekend, and I'm going to leave the line open to see if there are any questions or anybody wants to stay on and look at any other functionality areas within the solution. So I'll say thank you to those who want to drop off. I'll just stay on the line, and maybe nobody, but I'll stay on the line for an extra 5 minutes or a lot longer if people want to cover other specific areas. So that concludes the 30 minutes webinar, Programme Express, Simple PMO Reporting, Planning and Resourcing. Thank you.